Welcome to the show, Billy.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good to meet you in
Yeah,
person.
you do. Well, kind of in person.
Kind of pseudo person.
Yeah. Let's start off with what's your sober date?
March 14th, 2017. Yeah,
So what
March
was going on
14th.
March 13th, 2017?
You are?
No, what was going on that day?
You said March 13th?
Yeah, the day before. What was going?
Oh man. That was a rough day. That was one of those days where like I woke up and it was like, all right, it's go time. And I had the 13th and the 14th off of work. Went to go do comedy open mic downtown here in North Carolina. Um, and I'd already like been pre gaming. You know the drill. Like you drink up. I'd already taken extra um, Adderall before I went, so I could drink good healthy bit. And went and did the open mic. I don't. It's kind of little bits and pieces that I remember. Like I remember going home. I remember calling a friend of mine, being like, "Hey, it's like only 2 a.m. Let's party." And I drove to their house, and then I remember little bits of like arguing back and forth, and then the next morning on the 14th, I woke up in my backyard, and my car was like almost in the backyard through the fence. Like the fence was knocked down, but it wasn't completely there. Front end was crashed. Um, yeah, I mean it was a lot of stuff going on. Um, Shit,
So,
nobody's asked me that question in a while. That was a good one, dude.
well, what was your drug of choice? Was it alcohol?
It was alcohol, and I also was a lot of prescription stuff. Like I was prescribed enough like Adderall type. Like it wasn't Adderall, but it was a different type that was a little bit stronger. Um, I was very much abusing that, and benzos as well. So I kind of had the trifecta of everything, and I mean, it, I never really like I never did anything like hard. Um, but if somebody had something at a party, some nose beers, I would probably, I didn't buy it, but I was the first one to be like, hey, let me grab that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know exactly what you mean. So you grew up in North Carolina?
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, and then I kind of uh, moved around a lot of places. Like lived a lot of like inside U.S., outside the U.S., and then I keep coming back to North Carolina, so it's home. I love it here. I got family, mom, dad are still around. They live like 20 minutes away. Wife, kids, all
Yeah.
here right now.
I lived in Durham for a year.
Oh yeah. Oh man, how'd you like it? It was only for a year, so it obviously wasn't that rad.
Yeah,
But
it was a rough year. I mean, I had a lot going on. I just lost my fiance and I kind of was running away from everything. I thought if I left New Jersey, I wouldn't be on drugs. But then I went to North Carolina and I got into coke and I drank more, found
mm,
coke easily, and was mixing and matching with that. I've lived in 5 different states and I moved 30 times in my 20s.
wow.
So I totally get the bouncing around. I didn't bounce around a lot as a kid. I was mostly in the same house the whole time. Like
Yeah.
the Fourth Ave street sign behind me is the original street sign from where I lived most of my life. Um,
Oh, okay.
a buddy of mine worked for the township, and he was getting rid of. They were throwing away all the old street signs, and he pulled the Fourth Ave out for me. So that is the original sign that was on my corner growing up.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I got my street sign too, but I didn't get it that legit. I can tell you, I definitely did not get it that legit. And I was actually sober when I got it. When we moved my parents out of that town, and I was like, I
mhm.
gotta have this sign, so I took the sign. It was like the last illegal thing I did
Yeah,
after I got sober. I was like, but I lived here. Like this sign was in my yard my whole life,
yep.
and now it's mine.
No, I totally get that with the signs. I have a buddy that I met through podcasting that does stand up around. around Raleigh.
I probably know him.
Yeah, Hunter Edwards.
Yeah, wow. I know 3 Hunters. I don't know if
Yeah,
I know Hunter Edwards.
he's hosting Good Nights tonight or last night. Good
Then
Nights in Raleigh. So
I
he's
definitely know him. Yeah.
yeah, he's doing good things.
That's
Uh,
good, man. That's
yep.
good.
Yeah, it's an up and coming scene down there for comedy. It seems like.
It's been really good. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I kind of got out of it um a year ago. My mom, well, a year last April, my mom was diagnosed with terminal leukemia, and they gave her 3 months. Um, I kind of just dropped everything for the full year to kind of be there for mom. I mean, she's still here, like, thank God. Like, it's she's been here a year and a half now. She'll be taking chemo the rest of her life, but I kind of just dropped it all because it was so much. When I got sober, part of it was one so I could live, and a second one was that comedy was the only thing that I burned bridges with when I was using and drinking. Um, and it was getting to a point where like I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. Like I'd been doing it for 10 years at that point. Um, 11 years. Yeah, 2012, and then 2012, and then 2017. So no, it was only like 5 or 6 years. Um, I suck at math, and I really wanted to be better at it. So when my buddies came over that morning on the 14th, like my two best friends, they came over and they were just like, "Man, we're not doing this anymore. Like, you got to go get some help. We're gonna let your folks know." Because like my parents had no idea what was going on. Like a lot of people knew I drank, but I was never the one that they were like, "Oh shit, here comes Billy." Like I was the one they were like, "Hey, here comes Billy. Let's buy him some drinks, see what he'll do tonight. Yeah, this is gonna be great." Like I was always the clown. I was always like the loving teddy bear. Rarely got angry. Um, but once once I got sober and I realized that I could be funnier with my writing after I got sober, that was everything to me. Until I met my wife, and then a good 5 6 months after that, learned that I was going to be a dad, and then everything kind of changed as it should.
Yeah,
You know.
I didn't think because I did stand up in addiction, and I was worried about getting sober and am I still going to be funny if I'm sober? And I found that talking and speaking a lot of meetings, put myself in front of a crowd of people and just open up, it gave me that void of or that what do you want to call it? That validation that I can still be funny,
Yeah.
sober. But it took a little while to do that. You know what I mean? So you grew up in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You have any brothers or sisters?
Nope. Only child. Well, I mean, I have like 3 cousins. That were like our moms were sisters that I saw every holiday, every like at birthdays. We would go like 2.5 hours from them. They're like my older brothers. But biologically, no. I mean, to be honest, man, like I had a great childhood. I was very, very lucky. I was the only child. My parents didn't make that much money, but if I needed something, it was there. If I wanted something, I had to pay for at least part of it. So it wasn't like a spoiled brat thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was definitely, yeah, not a complete spoiled brat, but I was a little spoiled. Like my parents, my mom had a miscarriage before me, and she had me at 40, so I was kind of like her miracle baby. Um, so with that, I think it kind of came like, let's give this kid whatever we can. But yeah, I had an amazing childhood. I actually didn't even start drinking or using till I was like 20, 19, 20 is when I like started drinking and started smoking weed, and but it wasn't like a climb. Like it was like as soon as I started, it was just like straight down. Um, I don't think that there was like many nights after I started having a beer or two and getting drunk. Once I learned what getting drunk was and my body felt it, it was pretty much every single night until March 14th, 2017. I can't think of a night. I've been trying to over the years. Somebody asked me this question, like, was it like an incline? Did you think? I'm like, nah, man. I tasted it. I felt what it could do to my body, and then that was it. Like, I was definitely a lush from the get-go.
So how old were you when you stopped?
2014. I'm 44 now. Shit, I don't know.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
said, I'm horrible at math. Like
So
I was
like,
so
so you
bad.
went on for like 17 years then.
What's that?
You went on for like
Oh
17.
yeah,
If
by
you
far.
started at 20 up to like 37, because you got sober
Mm-hmm.
7 years ago.
Yeah,
So if you're 44, you would have been like 37 when
yeah.
you stopped. Um, did you ever like getting DUIs or anything major ever happen? Like, do you have any like consequences to your drinking ever?
Uh, yes and no. Uh, I had a DUI. I wasn't really drunk when I got it. That was kind of back in Roanoke Rapids, and this dipshit guy who was kind of a bully to me in high school and back and forth. Like he was a little guy, had a little guy complex. But it was Christmas Eve, probably about 2009 and Christmas Eve, and we had some shots, we had some beers, and I knew I had to go home, so I kind of like drank some water and tried to sober up a little bit. And about 2 hours later, got in my car. That guy pulled me over. He was a cop in Roanoke Rapids. I blew just over the limit, like just over the limit, and that was the day after in North Carolina they made it there, so there was no difference between DUI and DWI. Because there used to be two. There was driving under the influence and driving while impaired. And there were two completely different consequences. And it just went straight to driving while impaired. So I blew like just over the limit. So that kind of screwed me on that one. Consequences is like, I always had this thing to where I had
Relationships.
yes and no. I mean, I was married once before. We were both enablers. We both drank just as much all the time. Cheated on each other all the time. All the time is kind of there, but if you do it once, it might as well be all the time, as far as I'm concerned. My biggest thing when drinking that I really had to repair and work on myself was I've always been an entertainer. Like my parents started me in theater and like TV stuff when I was like six and a half. So therefore, I always felt like I had to embellish everything to be interesting, more interesting than the person that I was either competing against or be the most important person in the room, because attention was just as much as an addiction to me as drug and alcohol. I mean, addiction isn't always just drug and alcohol. It's everything that's obsessive, uncontrollably obsessive things. Attention was that for me when I was a kid, and like even when I started drinking, like 4 months after that, I got in my first band. I was with them for like 5 years. Then I went to another band that was even bigger than that, and then started touring with bands, like doing lighting design, sound, stuff like that. So I was always in that lifestyle and always in that element. But the biggest thing was I always felt like I had to embellish everything. I could have done the coolest thing in the world that day, and I would have embellished it times 10 to get another reaction. That was the biggest thing after I got sober, and really kind of like working on myself. That was the biggest thing, to make sure that I am being the most honest, transparent version of myself in order to be a better myself. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way
Yeah,
to
that
say
makes
that.
sense. I get what you're saying. Did you do step work?
No, I didn't. I tried. That was me getting in my own way. I when I got out of rehab, I did IOP. I'm actually still friends with a lot of the counselors there. And I did 90 for 90. I went to NA and AA. My home group was NA, and it was 7 a.m. in the morning. I got a sponsor there, and then about 3 weeks later, he was kind of like, "Hey, man, you haven't called. You haven't called. You haven't done anything. I ain't got time for this shit." And he was like, "Just go find another sponsor. I don't think you're ready." And he was right. I didn't. I mean, the only reason I asked him for a sponsor is because I had a friend that was my 6 month, and I had a friend that they found that had overdosed the night before, and then we found out or the 2 days before, and then we found out because they were supposed to hand me my 6 month tag, and they never got back with me that they were coming. And then I got a call from a friend of mine, "Hey, did you hear about so and so? Like they just found them in a hotel room." And I'm like, "Oh crap." And I was devastated, man. That was back before, if you spend a lot of time in the recovery community, there's a lot of people that go down. And I don't mean just falling off the wagon. I mean that literally go down.
Yep.
So that was kind of hard for me to where I had never really lost a lot of people in my life. Of course, like older family members, things like that. But that was really hard for me to handle. So I gave myself an option to either grin and bear it, get out of your own way, or stay in your own way and possibly relapse and go back out and see what you can do. And my hard-headed self chose to do it my own way. It took some adjusting. I still go to meetings. Like I have one that I go to once. It's not every day. It's not all the time. It's not as much as I would like to. Let's put it that way. But I still go. No, just to answer your question bluntly, I really can't give you an excuse. No, I thought that I could do it myself, which so far I have, but I've definitely seen the downfalls of not doing the steps and getting a sponsor and doing it that way. I've made it this far, but I know mentally I could be better if I'd have just listened to everybody else and done the steps. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you go to rehab locally?
Yeah. That morning, my buddies were like, "You got to go." I'm like, "Cool." We all called my parents. They came down within 3 hours. I called it was a Wilmington Treatment Center here in North Carolina, and they had a bed for me, luckily, that afternoon. And I went in that afternoon, and that was the best thing I could have ever done for myself. It was, I still remember everything from rehab. I was hungover when I went in, but I wasn't drunk. I wasn't messed up. I kind of questioned why I was there. You go, if you've been in rehab, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the first time you go and you walk in, you're like, "What the hell is this? Where are all these people? I don't look this sick. I don't need to be here. Why am I here?" And then the anger comes. And then the next day you kind of calm down a little bit, but you're like, all these people look way more sick than me. And I had this moment that day where I was so frustrated about this decision I made. And I was in the bathroom of the detox room, and I had a roommate in there. I wondered about that roommate sometimes. But he came in there and he was just like, "Dude, if you're here, you deserve to be here. So quit bitching about it." And then I kind of got up and I was just cleaning my face off, and I looked at myself and I'm like, "Oh, dude, I look worse than all these people that I was thinking how they looked, And that was kind of the moment I realized I needed to be there. I needed to be there. I needed to pay attention. I needed to get out of the detox side over to the regular, the after detox, the inpatient. And I need to get in these small groups, and I need to pay attention because I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I had actually taken a good look at myself, in a mirror physically in a while. I've been bald as far as I can remember. So, you don't have to look in the mirror to brush your teeth. I don't have anything to comb, but yeah, rehab was the best thing I could ever done for myself. I still do a lot for the rehab facility here, with the alumni and stuff like that. They're good people. We got a really good community here.
What, do you still go in there and talk?
Yeah. Yeah, I sure do. Like I would go do comedy shows. A friend of mine, Kelly, was actually the same group I met you in. She's the one that invited me to that because I had just had her on my thing. Um, yeah, I've gone. She's asked me to come do like alumni cookouts to do like either tell my story, do a comedy set. I used to go once a week when they had it to where you would just go speak to everybody in detox and
Yeah, we had them every Monday night.
yeah, I was always the last one out of there too because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't coming in just to sit in front of somebody and talk at them. Like I wanted to hang out and talk to them. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Whoa, you're really loud.
Too loud. There we go.
Lots of echo.
Can you hear me fine?
I can, but I can hear myself talking too.
Okay, I'm not picking that up. So you were saying you've been to you still go to your rehab just to talk?
Yeah, I mean I haven't been in a while because they kind of changed their procedures. But I still do like the alumni thing, and you know I still go to meetings whenever I can, and it's not even an excuse. It's just the way it is. You know, I got a 5-year-old, I got 2 teenage stepsons, a full-time job, got my own show that I do. You know, if I do a comedy show, it's that. And I don't like being the dad that's not home and present. Um, Now, if I need to go, I'll drop everything and go. But if my friends are picking up, I'm right there to cheer them on. Like I just actually went and did that the other day. Um, yeah, I wish I had a way to describe it without it sounding kind of. I always feel like when I say no, I don't go to meetings that much. I didn't do the step work, and I'm okay. I always feel like it's coming off pompous. Um, but you know, as someone who just told me the other day, like you know, recovery is one of those things that everybody does 100% different. Everything you know, there's some people that are like the California sober or whatever. Like, cool. If that works for you and that keeps you off your DOC, in my opinion, you're sober if you're off that DOC. Now, is it dangerous? Fuck yeah, it is. Is there a higher likelihood that you're gonna fall back in old habits? Absolutely. But you have to do things that work for you.
Yeah,
And
I was
I'm
California sober for a while.
yeah.
So I found myself abusing it. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then when I quit everything, you know, like 4 months ago, I quit weed too, just because I wanted to, you know, change completely what I was doing. So I
Yeah.
quit. I was on benzo. I was prescribed benzos. You know, I'm bipolar. So they give me all types of medicine for being bipolar. And benzos was one of them. And I found myself abusing it all the time to the point where I got prescribed Valiums, and my drug addict brain, I know that you can snort Valiums, and I was addicted to snorting just as much as I was addicted to the drug that I was snorting.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself snorting my own Valiums. And,
Yeah.
you know, now I'm 4 months away from that. And I was like, I'm just going to quit weed too while I'm at it because I need to do more than just quit benzos. I need to be all in on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to daily noon Zoom NA meetings. I do Gamblers Anonymous on the weekends. I do AA on the weekends. Gotta like put myself out there.
Got to, man. Like that's the thing. Like I can admire somebody that can just stop things willy-nilly and not have any support for it. I can admire that. I'm not built like that. I'm an addict. Everything about me is an addict. Tech stuff. Dude, I buy so much tech stuff for like either my thing or just for streaming or to shoot like interview stuff. Like I'll do freelance. I just buy all the, and it's such an addiction and it's obsessive. Um,
I
I
always say that I'm addicted to more. I'm addicted to this substance called more.
yes,
That's what I do
exactly.
all the time.
That's a perfect way to describe it. I can't. I needed help to stop drinking. I needed help to rehab was great because I needed help to stop drinking. I also needed the coping skills to learn how to keep from drinking again. And I also needed the time away to get all the prescription stuff that wacko doctor was putting in me. And I still to this day, I don't take like prescriptions. Like I have anxiety bad, I have depression bad. Um, I don't take antidepressants anymore. I don't take anti-anxiety medicine anymore. I don't like pharmaceutical medicines, period. Like I'll take an Advil, a Tylenol, but when it come to when it came, I had like a really bad panic attack about 2 years ago, and it almost lasted like 48 hours. Like I was severely depressed once I would come down from the anxiety, and then I would get back up in the anxiety because of the depression, wondering why I was so depressed. And it was like this wave for 48 hours. And then finally a buddy of mine like brought over like the medicinal CBD THCA gummy things, like
Oh
80% CBD.
yeah. Yep.
And my wife was just like, Billy, I don't ever want to tell you to do something like this, but you need to try something. And I talked to my psychiatrist. He was like, fuck, give it a try. And I took like half of it. And the next morning, like I woke up and I felt like, why was I even depressed? Like it was able to clear my head like the antidepressants were. Now I did end up getting some of those, but I don't trust myself with them. So like my wife has them. So if she sees me get like that, she knows like, okay, after Billy tells me no 200 times, then I'll make him eat one of these. But I tend to listen to her. She's a smart cookie. And, I'm very lucky to have her in my life. I really am. And she's been kind of the rock to where I'm okay with not going to meetings on a regular basis because I do have her as a support. I'm kind of lucky in the way that life fell down on me with my arrogance to do it my own way. Life or higher power, whatever, how you want to put it, kind of put the exact right person beside me that would love me and accept me, even though she never knew that using or drinking side or that version of myself. She's been the best support system, and gave me a daughter, which I never thought I was gonna have, like ever. Like I had a kid at 42, and well, I didn't, she did. I only had about 10 seconds to do with that making of that baby. And sorry, I just lost what I was saying because I realized I just said I had sex for only 10 seconds, which hey, truth is truth, homie. But yeah, my daughter is like my rock. My two stepsons are amazing. I'm very open and transparent with everybody in my family about it. Yeah, no, I mean, life is good. But like I said, if I need it, I know where every meeting is in town on every day at what time.
Which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned technology, and what's your show called?
We Made My Day.
And you just start that recently?
Yeah, I've been working on it for a year, man, to be honest with you. But with my mom's leukemia diagnosis, then stopping comedy, there was a big depression after stopping comedy because I was like, why am I doing that? That's my only passion. Got to be there for family first, no matter what. And so I started like coming up with this idea that I wanted to talk to people with 3 or more years of sobriety. There's a lot out there for people in early recovery, and it's needed. What I had the hardest time with myself was how to maintain after going through the multiple stages of feeling complacent. And the new after the whole flood of everybody you knew when you were drinking and using goes away, and you meet these new people that have no idea who that person was. Like, I've got people now in my life when I was like, yeah, I'm 7 years sober. They're like, what? We would never ever think that. Like, we would never thought. I'm like, yo. And then, of course, my buddies have to chime in, like, you should have seen this dude. Like, we got pictures, we got videos, we got everything. But I wanted to talk to people that had 3 or more years, because that's a kind of a sweet spot of a certain stage on, the 3-year itch, the 5-year itch, the 7-year itch. Like, that's true. Like, I went through all 3 of them. But it's been amazing to me to see how everybody has different ways of staying sober, has different coping mechanisms, has different ways that they've been able to like learn themselves in their new skin, and thrive and appreciate themselves. It's like a new standard. Like, it's still kind of a version. I think we all have the pink cloud forever, as long as we stay in the right mindset. But that pink cloud could kind of open up to a really pretty sky once you've kind of learned yourself and really truly started loving yourself, which I honestly, in my personal opinion, like, I didn't have until like year 3, and then there was ups and downs, and then 5 again, and it's been good. Like, I got a YouTube channel for it. There's 5 episodes now. I've got 8, 9 recorded. Well, no, I was supposed to have 9, but they had to cancel today. And it's been really good for me. That's kind of why the title is "We Made My Day," because it's I'm arrogant. I'm kind of still about myself. I'm never gonna let that performer ego side of me go away. I can't. I wish I could. That would be, but then that would be really boring too. But it's really been helping me with the amount of people that's come in to be able to kind of learn. Like, I've learned a lot of self and shortcomings of myself that's helped me too. Like, what was it? The one guy that comes out next week, he was talking about this amazing thing about addiction and with more, basically, like you just said, and how he stops himself on that. Like, he gives himself 5 days. Like, you really, really, really want something, you give yourself 5 days to do. Second day, chances are you're not going to think about it after that second day. But if you really want it and really need it, give yourself the 5 days to evaluate it, and then do research on other things. And on that 5th day, if you can afford it, if you really want it, and if, more importantly, if you need it, then it's gone past that point of just more. Now it's been evaluated. And to me, that like blew my mind. Now, I gotta admit, since he told me that, I've bought like so much other shit that I didn't wait 5 days for. But there's a few things that were like really expensive that I'm not a rich man, Like, I pay bills, and I'm like lucky to have grocery money out of a paycheck. But yeah, it's helpful a lot. Like, there's all kinds of really cool nuggets that I've learned talking to the people. And I can't wait to talk to more, man. I was excited to talk to you today. I'm like, I need to hear this guy's story. This dude seems like an interesting feller.
Well, I definitely have a story. Most of us do. I started this about 3 years ago in 2021. Yeah. And I have 164 or 5 episodes.
Nice.
Quite a bit. We're on season 6 now.
Very cool.
There's been times off in between because sometimes, I'd work myself ragged. I remember I got so into it that in September is recovery month. So what I did was celebrate by doing a brand new episode every single day for a month.
What? Oh my God. I don't have the time.
So I did that. And then coming up on that Christmas, I figured everybody's triggered around Thanksgiving and around Christmas. And New Year's Eve. So what I did was I put out a new episode every day from Thanksgiving Eve to New Year's Eve. So even longer than a month. So
Yeah.
it became an addiction. But I had different people on each time, hear different stories. And like you said, it kind of take a little bit from every story and kind of grow and learn from that story and try to learn some lessons along the way too for yourself. Because getting sober is a selfish thing.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what I
gotta
mean?
be.
It's
Gotta be.
yeah. And if you're not being selfish about it, then it's not going to work. You have to put yourself first to put the work in.
And I've heard of people say that it's being selfish, but you know how like you've heard something like 10, 15, 20 times and it doesn't click until one particular time. Like that you just kind of made me feel better about being such a ego driven, hard headed, arrogant person. Like arrogance is not a good word. I'm very confident, sometimes overly confident. But no, I think that's probably why I was able to kind of do my thing. Because for the way I kind of looked at it, I was just like, if I just don't drink and if I don't do anything for at least 1 year, then all of that want may be out of my system. I was so young and dumb. All that's gonna be gone, And then I hit a year, and then I had to have a roommate move in, and he smoked a lot of pot, like a lot of pot, and I'm like, God, that pot smells so good, like so good, and
It does.
yeah, and I'm like, I can't ask him to stop because he just moved in and nice roommate. He's really clean. This is the only negative thing about him. And then I was having all these mixed things. So I go to a meeting and come home and I'm still smelling it. And I'm like, those people in the meeting aren't smelling this delicious weed. Like I got to do something about, And then about 2 weeks later, I was on Plenty of Fish, the Section 8 of dating apps.
It sure is.
And I met my wife. We talked for like 2 weeks, and I let her know instantly. Like I was like, "Yo, I'm an addict. I've been sober for just over a year." She had just gone through a divorce, and about 2 weeks later, we decided to go downtown and take a walk on the riverfront and drink coffee or iced tea or whatever. And that was it. We've been inseparable every day since then.
It's eerily similar to I met my wife on Tinder.
Oh yeah,
and she was just coming out of the divorce, and we were coming up on our anniversary is April 7th, and my clean date is April 25th. So it was just around a year, and at first I'm like, we can't get serious or anything yet because you're just out of a divorce and I'm not even a year sober yet. And because they give you that unwritten rule of no relationships in the first year.
Yeah.
And I celebrated my first year clean by I went to LA I went to LA to get clean. And I
Whoa, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Did you say you went to LA? The city of sin.
Yep.
Damn, that's hardcore.
They have like 300 meetings a week there. It's some of the I went to you say 90 and 90. I did 250 and 90.
Yeah.
I was going to 4 or 5 meetings a day. I was just you'll appreciate this. Every Saturday at noon, I went to a meeting in the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I've been to that meeting.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't want to give any names, but like I used to tour with a comic that's really well known that's sober. And that's kind of why I got the gig. And right
in the original room.
Yeah.
And you sit around the original room, and there's probably 50 people in that meeting. It wasn't a huge meeting, but it was still a good meeting.
That's good meeting.
I lived on the west side in Culver City, right outside of like Marina Del Rey and Santa Monica and Venice.
Okay.
And I spent a ton of time at the West Hollywood Recovery Center on Tuesdays. On Fridays, I would go there. I would go to meetings every single day in Marina Del Rey. I would go to meetings every day at noon in Santa Monica. I would go to different Saturday night meetings in Venice. I was everywhere in that city, at least on the west side of the city. The furthest I ever traveled outside the West Side was on my 30 days sober. This guy who worked in my rehab, he he's been on my show now, but he had a year sober when I met him, and he was basically our driver in a rehab. Like, he would take us to outside meetings. He drove the Dope Fiend limousine, and we all just would pile in and go to meetings. And he was the one that would take me to the Comedy Store every Saturday because he knew how much, about stand up and how much I was. And so he was like, "Hey, I'm a secretary at this late night meeting in North Hollywood, and I want you to be the speaker." And I'm like, "Well, I'm 30 days sober." He was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what we want. Just so you know, it's a crosstalk meeting, and we're going to heckle you the entire time."
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, I've been heckled before when I was drunk, so I can handle that sober." And so that was my first speaking engagement, was being heckled the entire time about being new in sobriety and speaking. And I got through it, and I was more comfortable speaking. I made them laugh, and I'm like, well, if I can make them laugh, then I can make anybody laugh. But yeah, man, I went out to LA. So when I got sober in 2018 or in 2019, I was coming up on a year. I spent about 4 or 5 months there when I first went out there. Then I came back to Pennsylvania, and we had a business with my dad and brother, that was a plumbing business. So I came back here just to run a business with them again. But I flew myself back out to LA on my 1 year because I wanted to celebrate in all the meetings that I used to go to get like my 1 year chips at all the meetings that I used to go to. So, and that's what I did. But when I came back after being, I proposed to my wife when I came back.
Yeah.
And we had only been together like 3 or 4 weeks at that time.
That's awesome.
I wasted no time. So I understand the whole, meeting on an app and the way that you talk at first. And I was brutally honest at first, like, hey, I'm in recovery. I'm sober. I go to a lot of meetings, because I was going to 2 meetings a day, even when I came back to Pennsylvania. I found a meeting an hour from my house that I would go to every Tuesday and Friday. And because in addiction, I used to drive 2 hours to get pills, and then I would drive 2 hours back. So I figured if I find a meeting an hour away, then that will give me the same kind of drive. If I'm going to drive this far from my addiction, I'm going to drive this far from my recovery.
Yep.
So that's what I started doing, and that worked out really well. I'd almost meditate on the way back. I would drive back. I'd have the windows down, no radio on, just chain smoke my cigarettes and reflect on my meeting. And that was my way of meditating, because meditation, people think it's sitting crisscross applesauce, and it's not how I meditate. You know what I mean? I meditate by driving with the radio off and just windows down and smoke my cigarettes. And that's my form of meditation.
Mine is a shower. Mine is a very hot shower that I'll sit in there for 20, 30 minutes and just not think. Like, turn this crazy factory that always has things going around in it, just push everything out. It's kind of like emptying the recycling bin on your computer. Like, it's, to me, that. And music has always been a big part of my life. Like, there's certain bands that I can sit back and listen to and just clear the mind. And honestly, you're gonna laugh at this, because I'm a house husband to the max. Like, I work from home, so I'm always here. Folding laundry is so relaxing to me, dude. Like, folding my wife's fancy panties is so relaxing. Like, folding all the clothes, like, to me, is just like this Zen like deal that I love. That's how long was it till you could find something that gave you that Zen like feeling after getting sober and clean?
I'm still searching for it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things that, it was gambling.
Yeah.
I found myself finding other vices. And and there are things that I was doing, now that I'm back, I needed a healthy hobby. And so I brought back my shows as a way, and I'm not doing any advertisements. I had BetterHelp originally as one of my advertisers, and I'm not advertising for BetterHelp anymore because I'm not trying to make money from these.
Yep.
These are my ways of talking, and it's like a therapy session sometimes. And, this is my new hobby where I'm just diving into it. It's going to be a way for me to unload and help somebody else unload. So I would say this is one of the things that I get satisfaction from, to where I feel completely zen in the moment, because it doesn't matter what's going on. I can kind of turn it on, and you know how it is being a stand-up. When that light's on you, you can just turn it on and go. No matter what happened that day, you can get up on stage and kind of shed the skin and then do what you need to do to get a good performance up. But I work from home too, so I totally get that. I work 7 to 6:30 Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and I answer phone calls all day for a hospital system. I'm a schedule for a hospital system.
I do the same, but for a tech company.
And it can be taxing. That's why I only record on weekends and Wednesdays, because I'm off on Wednesdays and I'm off on the weekends. The last thing I have trouble with this is it's really hard for me to have a conversation and talk after talking for 11 and a half hours.
You can't. Like, you get yelled at a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you can't. It's so hard. I don't know about you, man, but when I clock out at 5 p.m., I leave the room. Well, I'll stay in my office for like an extra 20, 25 minutes before I go out and have to talk to my 5-year-old and the boys, like my stepsons and my wife, and I'll just clear my head of everything. Like I used to do, like my wife kind of got me into yoga for a little bit, but then I decided I like food too much to keep that bendy phase going.
Yeah.
Like I would rather eat a really good like buffalo wing Cheez-It than to learn the downward dog. Like I'm all about food. But yeah, I'll clear my head and then I'll go out. Like I can't, like it's man, I had a lady last week. She was just like so mad that I wouldn't give her a free device. She was like, I hope your house fucking burns down. I'm like,
it sounds accurate. I mean, nobody calls the hospital when they're in a good mood.
Yeah, no, nobody calls tech support.
Yeah. No one calls their doctors when they're having a good day. So it's just something I always equate it. And, I'm a patient too at this hospital. And I've gotten fucked over being a patient at the hospital and with scheduling. And it's almost like working in a hot dog factory, but being vegan. I hate seeing how the sausage is made, how we have fucked over patients and now they're yelling at me because we fucked them over. And I hate it as a patient having to be like, yeah, no, I'm a patient too. I understand you're upset. I'd be upset if I was in your shoes. And I almost turn it into an open mic session. If I can make you laugh in 3 minutes, then you're not mad at me anymore. And I try to make each person I talk to laugh. And I have experience in trying to make people laugh within 3 minutes, because you know how the open mics are. That red light comes on after 3 minutes and you got to wrap it the fuck up. So I try to do that when I'm in a good mood, but there's some days where I'm just like, yep, thanks for calling, blah, blah, blah. How can I help you? Yeah. And just
kick rocks. See ya.
But I took a month off after my relapse. And when I came back, I said to them, because I was working 7 to 5:30. And I had said to them, listen, if I can take an hour and a half long lunch break to attend my daily noon meetings, I'll work until 6:30 to make up for that extra hour. So, yeah, I work 11 and a half hours, but I'm fortunate enough that inside of that 11 hours, in the middle of my day, I step out of my office for an hour. I hop on a Zoom meeting for NA. And I share there with how I'm feeling. If I'm having a good day, whether I'm having a bad day, I can kind of unload and feel better, or share for 5 minutes and hear other people's day and how they're doing, and kind of put myself into perspective for the rest of the day. So I work 5 hours and then I do an hour meeting and then I work 5 hours. So it's a long day, but at the same time, I'd rather it be longer to attend that meeting in the middle of my day.
Absolutely. Whatever you have to do to keep the mind in a good place. Mental health is probably the most overlooked. And I mean, it's getting a lot of attention now, more than it did like 7 years ago when I got sober.
Yeah, you're spot. I mean, because so I lost my fiance to suicide. And that was in 2015, and she was bipolar schizophrenic. Yeah. And she was like an outcast in society because of her sickness. And I wish she could have lived long enough for mental health to be as talked about today as it was 9 years ago. 9 years ago, you felt like you were trapped in a closet and nobody understood you. Now, 9 years later, people were openly talking about it. TikTok, like you can go down those wormholes on TikTok where everybody is all about recovery or all about being open and honest about their mental health and where they're at, whether they're autistic or whether they have a disease, and you fall down these wormholes on TikTok. And I really feel like she could have benefited a lot from an app like TikTok where she could find positive outlets to talk and feel like she was a part of a community.
Yeah. The man I'm right there with you. I really wish that mental health would have been more of the thing for her. Then it's mental health to me. I will sacrifice anything to keep my mental health going, because if I do that, then I know I'm a better version of myself, which I know then I'm going to be a better version for my family.
Are you in therapy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, bro. I go to 2 therapists. I got one that I take because I have really bad like ADD. And about 2 years ago, I actually was like, okay, I got to do something. Like I was trying to reorganize something like a room, and I messed it up way more because I was not able to focus on continuing. So I actually got on a low dosage of ADHD medicine. So therefore I have to talk to, once a month to a psychologist.
Yeah, I have a psychiatrist and I have a therapist, and I do therapy every Wednesday at 2. And then I do psychiatry like once every 4 to 6 weeks. I'll meet with my psych for a half hour. Because of me being bipolar, I am on medications. I don't take any benzos anymore as a result of my last relapse. I've shut down any kind of benzos that I could take. I could easily call him up and be like, hey, put me back on Valium. And psychiatrists are they're pill pushers. They're like, yeah, here you go then. But I don't want to do that anymore. I had to tell him, no, I don't want them anymore. And then the worst part was CVS kept trying to refill my prescription.
They love it, man.
They would text me saying, hey, this is ready. I told them I can't take it anymore. I'm allergic. And then I still get a text 3 days later saying, your script is ready to be picked up. And I had to call them again. Listen, put it back. I want it. And it was such a hard phone call to make as somebody who is an addict, addicted to everything. You know what I mean? I'm addicted to whatever's filling a void. And I heard before someone said my drug of choice was yes. And
that's strong.
That made a lot of sense to me. You know what I mean? That made a lot of sense. And that's why I take a lot from these interactions like you and I are having, is I get to learn a different way that people are recovering. And I get to take certain nuggets with it. And you'll find the more you do, because you're still in its infancy, you're going to find the more that you do, the more you find yourself drawing from other people's experiences in order to enhance your experience.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, yeah. And that's one thing that I've always, and like I said, I started this a year ago, and then about 4 months ago, me and my wife and my friend were talking who's sober, and she was like, all right, so you should do, because I was telling her about it. She was like, you should put that show together. I'm like, well, I don't have the equipment for it. I've worked in film. I want to make sure that it's this and this. She was like, why are you trying to make it look like $1 million? Like, you've got these 3 busted ass phones here where the cameras work. You've got one really nice camera. You've got all your streaming stuff. Like, just put it together. And I'm like, well, I will if you be the first guest. And Becca was my first guest. and I took a week to put it all together. My outdoor pergola, I transformed and put netting all around it from the bugs, because I know you remember from North Carolina, man, mosquitoes are the size of goddamn Volkswagens.
Yep.
They're huge. So I had to like do all that, and then after that first episode, I still didn't release anything for a month, and then every week, 2 times a week, sometimes, like everybody was just lining up from here in the community, and I've been very, very lucky, and it's now I've got like a backlog of things. Like I could take 3 weeks off right now.
Yeah,
from
I
doing
did. I found a lot of Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And like I'm in a Faces of Opioids group. And if someone posts a crazy before and after, I'll comment like, congrats on your sobriety. If you ever want to tell your story, I'd be honored to have you on my podcast about recovery. Let me know if you're into it and I'll DM you information. That's basically what I have gotten used to saying. And I did that twice last night. You know, I'm in all these different kind of sober support groups. And I found my guests that way. I've had on people from Ireland, a couple from England, one from Scotland, 2 from Australia,
Word.
1 from Sweden, a bunch from Canada, like I would say a handful from Canada. So I have not just in my little area, I've expanded to hear how recovery is all over the world.
Yeah.
And I've learned different ways that people have gotten through hard shit when it comes to recovery in different ways, whether it's 12 steps, whether it's reborn again, whether it's going to jail and, you know, trying to learn how sobriety is in prison and then getting out of prison. You know, people that wrote books I've had on here to promote their books, people that do podcasts that promote their podcasts. So I found that I don't have a lot of people on for live interviews, but I make up for that with having like a vast array of different people's situations. I've had people on my show that still drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to hear what their story was and just to dive into it. Why do you still drink? And go from there. And I'm in a group it's all about harm reduction and all about cutting back your drinking and moderately drinking like a regular person. And there's some people that were drinking during the podcast. And it's just something that I never thought I would do. I had this almost like you had that 4 years. I in my head, I'm like, or 3 years. In my head, I'm like, man, they got to be sober. And then eventually I was like, you know what? They have a story to tell too. I'm going to allow them on. And maybe they put tape around their beer. This way it's not noticeable that they're drinking beer. Or they move their camera away while they take a sip.
Right.
It's not ideal. I prefer to talk to people that have some time just so you're more comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
Have more to talk about. So I appreciate you coming on and being open and honest about everything and where you're at. Check out your show. We Made My Day. It's on YouTube, right?
Yep. On YouTube, TikTok, links there on both, and releases new episodes every Friday at 12 a.m. or Thursday night at midnight.
And I'll have the link to your show in the description.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Yeah, if you want to check out his show, go in the description, click on the link. It will take you right to his show. Thanks, Billy. I appreciate you coming on, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too, brother. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.